Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on next generation defense, embracing SlashNext's generative AI to thwart BEC attacks. My name is Nisreen Shams, Assistant Vice President of Business Development here at Stratagem, and we're looking forward to a great session with you guys today. To kick us off, the agenda for the webinar over the next 60 minutes, we'll start off with a little bit about who is Stratagem, an opening on the talk today, as well as an introduction to our special guests. And then finally, we'll close out with a business email compromise, threats and implications discussion. And then of course, we'll open up the floor for a Q&A for all of you here today. So business email compromise, it is to date the most pervasive threat vector in cybersecurity globally. So our inboxes today have become a modern marketplace, bustling with thousands of emails. And the stats are on the average cost of a BEC attack is $125,000 US. So with criminal AI lurking, creating masterful forgeries of emails, it's very difficult for even the most discerning eye to be able to pick up what's true and what's not these days. And most importantly, business email compromise is really a digital deception costing businesses over $2.7 billion annually, and that's according to the FBI Internet Crime Report. So who is Stratagem? In partnership with SlashNext's today, Stratagem is a next generation managed security services provider. So we've been known over the years to pick really good technology, SlashNext being one of them. And not only are we known for picking very good technology, but we're known for integrating and automating technology, bringing it to life, or as we say, breathing life into technology here at Stratagem. So essentially, we are pioneering since 2015 a cutting-edge security as a service platform, leveraging a cybersecurity mesh architecture to empower enterprises with unparalleled protection and compliance solutions. So really what we're doing to the core is we are infusing your environment with visibility. And the only way you can protect yourself against any malicious threat, or any threat for that fact, is to be able to see where that threat is coming from. So Stratagem metaphorically will shed light from an aerial perspective in 360 degrees to be able to help you make strategic decisions on behalf of the organization to quell malicious activity on your behalf. Most importantly, our unique approach is such that we're enhancing the resilience and the robustness of your posture, and also we're providing seamless integrated protection for your digital landscape, and that's why we've been so successful over the past 8 years, going on 9 years. Let's call it, 9 years in business right now. At the beginning of our 9th year of business is because we've been able to tell the market really how cybersecurity should be done, and that's part of it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our special guests broadcasting to us from Boston today. We'll start off with Barry Ruditsky. He is the SVP of Business Development at SlashNext. And with Barry today, we have Stephen Kowski, who's the Director of Systems Engineering over at SlashNext. So very excited to have both of these champions on with us today. I'm going to hand over the reins to Barry and Stephen, and I'll come back near the tail end to share a little bit more about a special offer we have for our guests today, and as well as open it up to a Q&A session. So feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, and we'll get to them as soon as we see them. So Barry, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Nisreen. It's great to be here today. And, you know, from a SlashNext perspective, it's terrific to work with partners like Stratagem. You know, a lot of technology companies out there will partner with everybody. SlashNext, as an emerging technology company, is really looking for the best partners, the partners that bring the best type of managed services to their customers, white glove treatment, so to ensure that their customers from a security perspective are fully and comprehensively protected. And so, you know, we've been working with Stratagem now for over a year, and we love the results that our customers are seeing as a team in terms of delivering SlashNext solutions through Stratagem, who provide a great managed service. So thanks for investing your time with us today. Thanks for Stratagem for hosting this webinar. And Stephen Kowski, who's with me, he's actually in Tampa, Florida, will be walking you through today a discussion related to actually what is business email compromise, how is it getting through your existing email security stack, and what are the implications of being attacked through business email compromise. So we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about the types of threats that are getting through. We're going to try not to talk that much about technology. And I would encourage everybody again to make sure that they put questions into the chat, and we're happy to have a very vibrant discussion at the end. So as Nisreen actually mentioned in her opening, business email compromise is a really big issue. It's costing companies a tremendous amount of money. And the question I would ask you, the audience, is how are these attacks getting you through your existing security posture? I know, because I talk to customers every day, you have invested millions and millions of dollars in email defense, in endpoint defense, in network defense, API defense. You guys have spending so much money, yet advanced phishing attacks, what we would call human compromise attacks, are getting through those defenses. And why is the big question, right? And if 91% of all successful cyber breaches start with a phishing attack, so it begs to the question, I've invested in trying to detect these threats and then remediate them. Why not invest in technology that prevents these attacks from happening in the first place? And then lastly, sure, you're seeing this in your own environments. Out of nowhere, QR code phishing became tremendous in 2023. It started to come out in May 2023. It's just expanding everywhere today. So Stephen's going to actually show an example and talk about this, but this is a new type of attack that's occurring. And it's really designed, whether it's coming through your email system, it's really designed to get your users off the email, the network, and start leveraging their mobile phones to start giving up information, which is a very unprotected vector. So these are three key things that are happening in the market today. As a backdrop, and you think about your own security posture and your own communication systems, personal, business email systems, all the collaborative and social applications that your customers are using. There's a bigger trend in the market that's already going on, right? Microsoft is pushing their customers to adopt, cloud-based email. People have been moving off on-prem email servers. Traditionally, enterprises have been using products from Proofpoint and Mimecast or Barracuda or others to sit in front of the email technology to prevent attacks from occurring. These legacy technologies are not designed at all to protect against these new advanced threats. They do not stop business email compromise. They do not stop phishing. And they're not even strong at stopping advanced credential stealing or harvesting attacks. But first of all, people are moving away from that seg-based structure into that cloud-based environment. Once you're in that cloud environment, you've left your seg behind. Microsoft does a really good job of providing seg-based capabilities as part of their environment, but it's not designed at all to detect and prevent these advanced attacks either. So they've actually developed a partner network, and SlashNext is part of that partner network, to integrate our technologies through their APIs to provide an integrated cloud email security environment to protect those mailboxes after Microsoft security is done with them. So that's one area that SlashNext plays in. And this started, and the next leg is it started in 2022. It's exploding right now. I'm sure, with the use of generative AI and other technologies, but I suspect that you're all seeing on your mobile phones smishing attacks, executive impersonations, and attacks coming through LinkedIn and other social channels and collaborative channels. So the enterprise, who a few years ago thought they were protected, now these new advanced attacks are getting through the front door of their email systems, as well as through all these other communication channels or messaging channels. So big trend in the marketplace that companies are moving to adapt to prevent these types of attacks from occurring. SlashNext actually has been around since 2017. Our founder came from FireEye. He realized when he started the company that the current legacy technologies were not going to prevent these new types of attacks from occurring. So we went off and built a complete platform to prevent, natural language-based attacks that were just launched, zero-hour attacks, credential harvesting and advanced link-based attacks, and attachment-based attacks. And we provide this platform. We actually have 3 different products that protect your corporate email security that's based on Microsoft 365, protects your users when they're using their endpoint devices, their computers, from any link-based attack that they might have clicked on, in any application, protects you at the time of click, as well as we've built a mobile agent for iOS and for Android to prevent the user from interacting with any of these attacks, whether it's a smishing attacks or a web-based attack, a link-based attack in any application. So we provide a complete environment to protect your users from interacting. So preventing them from interacting or even seeing these threats, they won't get through to your employees, which protects the enterprise. So it's just came out. This is a brand new slide, but there's a company called Tally, and they just released a study. It's published in the last couple of days, where they compared different vendors against SlashNext against advanced threats. So, Microsoft Defender for Office 365 here on the left-hand side. I'm sure that many of our customers, many of you, all of our customers have Microsoft Defender. And they believe that Defender is doing a good job in protecting their enterprise. But as you can see from this study, in aggregate, Defender's only catching 23% of those advanced threats. The rest are getting through and getting to those user mailboxes. And these advanced threats include, BEC and plain text threats. You can see they're only stopping 4% of them. QR-based code threats, you can see Microsoft doing a pretty good job with that. Link-based threats and file-based threats. And as you move from left to right, Mimecast does a better job than Microsoft, but they do nothing against QR codes. They do nothing against BEC. They're pretty good on links. There's a company out there called Abnormal Security. It's one of our biggest competitors. You can see here, they do a better job than Microsoft in these areas. But if you move to the right, SlashNext is catching 99% or more of these threats that the rest of them are missing. So we believe that our tech, which is the most modern tech that's out there based on AI and generative AI, is the right way to prevent these attacks from occurring. And just quickly, before we go into the attack types, our email security that we provide is such a great, and this is a product that Stratagem manages for its customers. It's a great platform because it integrates directly into Microsoft 365. It takes about 10 minutes to install. It's going through the APIs, and it provides this layer of protection. So we don't see an email to analyze until Microsoft's done with it. And as you know, they're only catching, as we just talked about, only 23% of the threats, of the advanced threats. They catch millions of the non-advanced threats as part of their set. So this is a layered approach where it is designed to provide that incremental protection against the most advanced of threats. SlashNext's platform here does not interrupt with email operations at all. It sits in the background. It's running when Microsoft's done looking at a message. It's the links, the attachments, the natural language is all scanned again by SlashNext. And if we determine that it's bad, we're going to remediate that and prevent the user from ever seeing it based on a policy that's set by you. So this is the solution to really prevent those QR phishing types of attacks and the BEC types of attacks. So with that, we're going to switch over now. I'm going to introduce Stephen Kowski to you, and Stephen's going to actually walk through all these different types of threats for you so you can see what they look like firsthand. Stephen?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Barry. Really appreciate that, and thank you, Stratagem, for having us today. It's a real honor. I want to start off with just warm up with some real world kind of examples here. There's really two ways to look at this email market from a defense perspective. There's the malicious content-based approach and the malicious intent-based approach. What you've seen traditionally, those legacy tools are really focused on malicious content, URLs, attachments, the known bad. Do we know it to be bad? If bad, block it. The malicious intent-based kind of attacks, the social engineering attacks, one of which you're seeing here, we'll talk about in a second. This is where we're applying a lot of new kind of alternative approaches to it that we'll get into in the next slide. The three kind of layers, primary layers that we're using, along with a variety of other kind of technical controls, whether it's the natural language processing or the social graph relationship. But we're going to kind of look at all this to understand the intent of this message. What is it trying to do? What happens, right? We're pulling apart different pieces of the writing style, the technique, how often these people are communicating. We have to understand the known good to detect deviations from that. That's more aligned with the malicious intent based. And then we add a third layer that I'll talk about, that generative AI layer that really drives the accuracy much higher. But just on this one, right, this one's something that we see all the time, but hello team, right, confirm your AR statement, right? This is invoking a powerful kind of human need to correct people, right? We all do it. You see it, it's wrong or it needs fixing and you want to jump in and contribute. And when you give them the proper AR statement, it's really game on from there, right? An attacker looks at that AR report, they understand company and client kind of financial relationships, payment cycles, amounts, who's being contacted, those types of things. They'll try to impersonate those clients or company individuals in kind of communications, and really they have a lot of added context to craft very believable requests. And with LLMs now, it's delivered in kind of perfect English, right?
What's an LLM, Stephen?
Large language model. So large language model, excuse me. Good clarification, Barry. These are the ChatGPTs of the world. They're based on large language models that they're a series of transformers, but they'll use this, these attackers, they'll use this detailed financial data to create these convincing phishing emails. They'll be able to send them out in mass, right? You're going to see highly customized phishing delivered at scale is really what we're seeing in the marketplace. So, but let's dive just an inch deeper on the kind of three primary layers that we use to understand this. Barry, jump to the.
Yeah, and just the watchers of this, I just want you to know that we have permission to show these email samples from our customers. And as you can see, Cal Poly, one of the larger university educations in California, is a customer of SlashNext, and we've got their permission to show this email.
It's good clarification. So really 3 primary layers. There's a variety of other kind of techniques we believe in defense in depth. We also have, as Barry mentioned, some other mechanisms of protection outside, but really just looking at the kind of layers of protection when we're talking about malicious intent. We'll come back to the malicious content towards the end of this, but we're first going to pull together natural language processing and machine learning. That's going to pull out the writing style, the tone, the intent, the emotions invoked, if there's financial information, those types of things. We're going to pull all those things out, identify them, and kind of highlight them, right, as part of our analysis. Then we're going to look at the sender, the receiver, and also the sending server itself. So what do I normally send to this person? What do we normally send back and forth? How often are we sending it? What are we saying? What does good look like, right? From a cadence perspective, but from a language perspective as well. That's going to be a big indicator as to whether or not this is legitimate. Also in that case, if you'll notice, it's a little difficult because of the size, but there we have a VIP tag where we're calling out impersonations of known kind of existing VIPs in organizations. So we can recognize when they're being spoofed, when they're being impersonated, and we can even identify, kind of the top offenders, right? The people that are being spoofed the most in the organization. So, and then finally, this is that generative AI where we ask that large language model we discussed before, take this original message and rewrite it in any number of different ways that you can possibly think of, right? And you're going to see here, the subjects are different, the language is different. So some of these are subtle variations, some of these are huge variations, and what we're trying to do here is get a significant amount of data so that we can make a determination, because this is helping with what are 0-hour malicious messages that have never been seen before, are specific to your organization or a particular user. And the current way, vendors that I've worked for at the past and how they solve that is by, socializing, anonymizing and socializing some of their other customer detail. It's a real issue. We don't want to do that. We're worried about supply chain attacks. We're worried about those things. And this is, in our view, a much better approach, and it increases the accuracy overall and for 0-hour malicious messages. So when you saw some of those graphs and you're wondering how could that be, right? We're applying a layer of capability above and beyond what's out there, where most of the most advanced kind of vendors out there, they're really just going to be applying layer 1 and layer 2. And they're going to miss out on the advantages that a generative AI algorithm is going to bring. Okay, maybe we can move to a couple use cases now. So starting with the vendor email compromise, right? This is unfortunately all too common. Ones that I saw when I was on the other side of the table as a email admin for a Fortune 150 billion-dollar kind of multinational. And this I've seen, unfortunately, too often, too closely. And here is, we're going to swap this banking detail. This message in and of itself probably doesn't have anything malicious. That attachment isn't going to do anything, but it is going to have faulty wiring details, right? And that future payment's going to go to the wrong place, right? I've sat across with a business unit leader, right? And it's very difficult conversation. That your money is taking a one-way flight to the Cayman Islands, right? They're extremely upset, want to know how to reverse it. And the reality is we had extremely close relationships with local kind of 3-letter government organizations, and their guidance was no different, right? You move on. It's not worth your effort. You won't get it back. that type of thing. So now what happens, right? Revenue numbers get missed, unfortunately. Good people that get let go. And now it's worse than kind of where I was with some of the public disclosure requirements that we're seeing come out from that are put on the burden of CISOs. They have to expose this information in a big way. So moving to the payroll fraud kind of example here on the far right, it's a very similar idea, except the individual employee gets compromised. The company still is impacted, right? Because someone has to make this right for that employee. But there's going to be some kind of negative outcome one way or another, whether it's to a revenue for the company, revenue to the employee's bottom line, or both, right? And this still, in these kind of cases, people are no longer, can be moved on from the organization, right, for being compromised in this way. It's something we never want to see, and we're committed to helping stop. That's kind of why I'm in the role I am. I want to try and help solve this problem. So reconnaissance here in the middle, executive impersonation, I called that out, that we're doing that quite a bit. So you'll notice, please include your WhatsApp number. So this is what Barry alluded to earlier. This is, and I'll show on the next slide another just quick example of this, but this is where the attackers want to move you outside of the place where you've been investing a lot of your energy and resources in email. We still think that this is a place where you should be investing energy and resources in email, but also need to think about that this is a broader messaging security problem now. It's no longer just an email problem. Phishing is a generalized problem, whether it's quishing, whether it's Teams phishing that we've seen over the last 2-3 weeks that Microsoft has been talking about since August of 2023, right? Teams phishing. And then also the smishing. Everybody's got those those delivery systems that are, the package is about to show up and you didn't actually see it. So let's just see one more of this kind of recruitment outside of the environment here, Barry. Just move forward here. Yeah, so this is a similar kind of idea, right? I'm impersonating a CEO, right? Kindly attach your cell phone in your response to this, right? So if it's WhatsApp, if it's a cell phone SMS message, really whatever it is, it's always going to come from a recognized trusted authority. It's usually urgent, right? Here, complete ASAP, quick response. It's going to happen at an odd hour. It's going to happen at an odd time. And now we're seeing that we want to move you into an environment where you don't have, because of all the kind of privacy concerns that various folks have, we're going to move to that environment because we know you have a blind spot. And that's really where we want to focus on and try to help solve. But I think that one of the reasons and ways they're doing that is QR code phishing. So let's look at that example here. This is a new one that we've seen quite a bit lately. We talk about malicious intent, we talk about malicious content. This is a unique kind of hybrid style, because in our environment, you're going to see that this looks like there's text there. Above this QR code, it looks like that's text. That is not text, that is an image. So the malicious intent-based solutions that are out there, they're not going to be able to easily recognize that. And that's why they saw this as a problem. The content ones may do a little bit better, right? We saw Microsoft do well on the QR code phishing, right? And really you need a combination of the two. And that's where we have stepped in. So this is an opportunity to even access this. I have to pick up my phone, I have to aim it at the screen, and now, boom, we're outside of the environment and it's game on. So what happens now? You use this to sign in. Potentially far worse, you sign in on your phone, which may share access or tokens to a variety of services, because your account is the new perimeter, right? We used to talk about that castle, right? Hard exterior, soft interior, right? All those kind of concepts, but this account is now the perimeter. That's been the transition. So you're going to see one of two behaviors once they've got this access. The kind of catch me if you can dynamic, where let's see how far I can go, how fast I can go with this access. I'm going to send emails from this one. I'm going to try to pivot to other systems. I'm going to try to compromise users with greater levels of access, right? I'm going to do all those things and hope I can do it fast enough before the team can react. The other approach, right, is the kind of listen and learn approach, right? I'm going to install some Outlook rules. I'm going to forward email traffic to an attacker account. I'm going to potentially monitor for certain keywords. I'm going to share a calendar out so they can, I can see where this person is, when they are. So when I send an email, I know they just got on a flight, right? I'm going to get assets out of their OneDrive, all that type of thing. And these are the harder ones to find, because this is the one where you've seen where they somehow got in the middle of this conversation. They didn't get in the middle of that conversation. They've had access to the entire conversation, and they knew precisely when to ask because they knew this person was on a plane, and they also had a rule in there to delete any of your replies as soon as they came in, so that person never had any visibility. So those two types of approaches really are where you see some of this happen once you engage with something like this, okay? And that's really where we want to shift to that mobile messaging solution. So here, why do they want to move us out of email? They're opportunists. Mobile is where most organizations are weak, intentionally so in a lot of cases, right? Why? It's that prisoner's dilemma that a lot of technologists faced. I faced this question, right? We want to protect the phones, but from a business perspective, we may not want to pay for the phones themselves or manage the phone onboarding, offboarding, and that type of thing, right? There, among other reasons, right? Users are concerned it's their personal technology, but they're using it for a business purpose. So it's hard to find that balance between the privacy and security, and the attackers know it and they're taking advantage of it. So you have kind of our executive impersonation, right? We get these constantly. Our CEO, he's finding new unknown numbers to send me messages from constantly. So it's always a surprise because I know that this is an attacker trying to get access to the organization. It's not really Patrick. Then we see, multi-stage attacks, right? I want to even further confuse you. I want to get you on the phone and maybe get you to do more things for me. Maybe have you log into a system, maybe have you install something, right? It's always super urgent, but these are the types of attacks where you see like a Twilio or an Uber, they didn't get compromised via email. They got phished via SMS. And that's the key kind of, if nothing else, walk away with phishing is no longer just an email problem, though email is a big part of it. And then finally, the invoice fraud, right? Invoices due. Here we want to click on this review and pay. So this is great because we're doing both that content and intent, right? I can detect the one, the very first one here with without a link. I can also look at our threat intelligence and understand that this link is malicious. So same thing with the QR codes, translating that and being able to see that and go to those malicious pages and analyze them. So that is kind of the malicious intent side of the house. And that's really something that we do incredibly well. We're a first party provider of that to services, but also to our customers. And let's check that out real quick, Barry. So this file link and file attachment, we're in the malicious content side of the house here, and we do an exceptionally good job here because we're not relying on a third-party feed. We're not relying on someone else to tell us what is. We're not malicious or not. We're not relying on a signature, right? We are doing the analysis live. Our SEER browser cloud is proactively crawling the web. There's about 1 to 1.5 million active malicious phishing websites at any given time on the web. We're looking for all of them and we're identifying them. So when we see this link here, we're going to proactively crawl it and analyze it. If there's any obfuscation techniques, so I'm thinking, CDNs like Cloudflare and that type of thing, we're going to move past those and get to the end destination page and figure out what are they trying to get my users to do. So same thing here, but with attachments. So this is, it says it's a .doc file. It's actually an HTML file. Either way, we're going to dig down with that SEER browser cloud into this file, and we're going to look for malicious intent within the file itself. And this is a place I think is kind of interesting. which is they put the QR code in the nested HTML document. So being able to dig into that, identify that QR code, map it to its destination, we think it's a really powerful kind of capability that's going to prevent your users from even having to be exposed to this kind of attack. And really that's why we're doing this. And then finally, we do have, not only on the mobile, really we have a browser level protection that will help detect phishing within these websites, because frankly, your users they're on LinkedIn, they're on a variety of different sites, they're getting messages from endless number of kind of messages. We saw, again, I mentioned Teams. People are getting phished out of Teams. They're getting phished in a variety of different places nowadays. And so it is a place where you need to go above and beyond that and protect them wherever they can be phished. And this is where we like to implement that from the browser perspective. The extension will dynamically inspect the page to look at the HTML, the DOM, the source, the imagery, all of it. Even if it's offline, we have ways to analyze that as well. So all of that machine learning and our threat intelligence database is incorporated in that extension and does an excellent job of preventing users from interacting with these malicious web pages. So these are a few of the ways we're kind of solving the problem of phishing, and we just know that it's no longer an email problem. If you'd like to kind of learn more, I'd love to kind of talk with any of you on it. Barry?
Yeah, Stephen, so why don't you just talk a little bit about what makes SlashNext different and discuss the way we're leveraging these different types of technologies to provide, to prevent these attacks from occurring.
Absolutely, yeah. So we mentioned some of the on the email side, you're gonna see on the left-hand side here, relationship graphs, contextual analysis, NLP processing, BEC generative AI. We're applying a lot of that on the email side, but we're also using some of that intelligence to analyze the different web pages we spoke about, as far as what's this page trying to do. And really, the big picture that you can kind of see from this image is that this is a layered approach, a defense in depth approach, if you will, but at a product level, right? We talk defense in depth, and we're usually talking about 3 or 4 different company solutions, all kind of overlapping on top of one another. For us, it's about providing those solutions all in one kind of single pane of glass, so that we're not having to manage all these different pieces of infrastructure. So computer vision recognition, using that in email and to dig down into those Word docs, also using that to analyze the text in the image in that QR code that we saw earlier. So even though that text is an image, for us, we're still going to be able to read it and still analyze the NLP, but we're also going to use that computer vision to go to those web pages, analyze what's going on with them, understand what they're trying to do. The file attachment inspection, all of that is included there as well, right? Understand what's being done. What does this file intend to do? Is it already known to be bad, right? That malicious content, we don't need to throw out what has worked for us, but do we know it to be bad already? And then also sender impersonation. So this is something that I really love, is our business text compromise, where we define executives in an organization, and that allows us to make sure that they are not used to impersonate folks through text messages or other means. So a variety of different kind of layered solutions here from a technology perspective. And this is kind of what Barry means when he says we have kind of the best technology available out there today.
Thanks, Stephen. I'd like to just really quickly talk a little bit about real customer success. So, because the customer success story, this company, it's actually DXC Technology, DXC Enterprises. They are a Fortune 200 company, one of the largest consulting IT services company in the world. And like many of our customers, They were using a third-party SEG. I'm not going to talk about who that SEG was, but this is a company that has a global footprint, 185,000 mailboxes. They realized earlier on, probably in 2022, 23, that they wanted to improve their security posture. They felt the best way to do that was get off the SEG, move to a cloud-based environment, and really, which would also help them to lower operational costs. So DXC basically said, okay, we're going to evaluate moving to Microsoft E5, use Defender for Cloud, and then figure out what supplemental services or ICES products they should integrate into that environment to provide a complete solution. So they made that decision to move off the SEG. This was actually an evaluation process. You can imagine this is a large customer that took many months. They interviewed 9 different vendors. They narrowed it down to 3. SlashNext was fortunate enough to be part of that 3. And you know, we're a new emerging company. The other vendors that they looked at were very well-known brand name companies. They tested us all simultaneously, and you know, their technical solution was SlashNext provided the best technology for preventing these advanced attacks. So they decided to move ahead with SlashNext. They integrated us in. Now think about the deployment of trying to move from, you know, a steady state to, you know, getting rid of your existing SEG environment. What they did first was they implemented, before they moved off the SEG, they implemented SlashNext. At first, they said, let's roll this out to 20,000 people and then see how it goes, and then roll it out to another 20,000. After the first 20,000 employee coverage, no issues, protected, they decided over a weekend to flip the switch and make it globally turned on. And no issues, no impact to the operational workflow. Essentially in 10 days, SlashNext was providing this advanced protection across all their mailboxes globally. From their perspective, that gave them the ability to now continue to move off of their SEGs. That SEG was costing them to run, so this is operational cost, people cost, several $1 million a year to run and manage that SEG. So they were able to just drop those operational costs. They consider SlashNext saving them that money. So Microsoft plus SlashNext was a really big win for them here. And you know what they love about it is they you know, email being, you know, an enterprise platform, but they felt like our technology was so simple to implement that we gave them this 0-hour protection that they were not getting before, both in their legacy environment and in the native Microsoft environment. So big win for SlashNext on a very large account. So Nisreen, why don't you hand it back to you, and why don't you tell them a little bit about the special offer we're making to Stratagem customers?
Yeah, thank you, Barry. Really appreciate that, and Stephen as well for the insights. So as promised at the start of the webinar, I did say that we were offering something special to the attendees, and that is basically going to be a BEC risk assessment. It is, of course, at no charge, no obligation to the recipient. It's 5 minutes to set up. All we need is an API integration into the customer's Microsoft tenant. Again, no impact on current email operations, and runs for 10 days in the background, and we're able to kind of sift through the past 6 months of history and give you a nice conclusive report for the executive level, for the technical level, that is able to really understand what's been going through the traditional SEG. I can tell you firsthand, it's a very powerful report. Anybody who gets their hands on this kind of data, they are mobilized to take action right away. And so it is something that you can empower your teams with, you can empower your executive leadership with, to kind of illuminate what's missing and what's really getting through. In addition, works on Microsoft and Microsoft 365 environments and those with email SEG such as Barracuda, Mimecast, Proofpoint, and Microsoft E3 or E5 licenses. Next slide, Barry. So this is basically just a reiteration of what kind of some of the reporting is going to look like. As we spoke about kind of earlier on in the presentation, the average cost of a successful business email compromise is north of 125,000 USD. So it is something that is mobilizing a lot of executives to start kind of looking at with a lot more diligence. And I invite you to connect with me if you're interested to engage this for your organization. I can get you set up with the appropriate team on Strategem side. We can help you manage it as well. Excellent. So let's go over to the Q&A section. I saw a question come through for you, Barry and Stephen. I'm going to read that out to you guys. So this one from Ali Hirji, he says, thanks for this one. One of the issues I'm dealing with currently, especially in lieu of recent events, is data exfiltration. We have policies in place, but insider threats are fluid. Does your solution have any controls for this?
Stephen, you want to take a stab at that one?
I want to be very clear. We do have outbound protection, but it's really to focusing in on messages that are malicious in how they're being sent. So the common one, in fact, this happened 2 days ago, was a user was compromised. We were in a remediation or a log-only mode, kind of similar to what Nisreen was just alluding to. We weren't taking any action yet, but an account was taken over and then tried to fire out about 400 plus messages across the organization looking to kind of pivot and that type of thing. So in that case, we were able to remediate all of those and identify those in the outbox. If you're looking for kind of more the traditional DLP, I don't think that would be, we're quite focused in on getting there yet, but it is something we're talking about quite often here today. I don't know if you have any other thoughts, Barry.
Yeah, no, just to echo what you said, is that we're doing both the inbound and we will do the outbound laterally inside the organization, because account takeover is a really big issue. And this is our way of preventing those account takeover attacks from turning into a data exfiltration. So we're sort of in advance of that. Again, preventative from the means that typical threat actors will actually try to do account takeover, which then will lead to the exfiltration. So, we're sort of like stage 0. If we can prevent them from ever getting in and the account taking over the account, then it makes it harder for them for doing a data exfiltration attack.
Great, thank you. Ali, if you can, if you're still on, let me know if that's sufficient. If you want additional information on any DLP kind of initiatives, you can always reach out to me personally, and we can go into more detail with you on that through our Strategem team. I'm gonna leave my email up here in a few slides. There is another question here. I think we may have covered it, but for the purpose of the question I'm gonna ask again, so I have an email SEG currently in front of Microsoft Defender. Is it still possible to use the SlashNext assessment to see what threats our current security is missing?
I'll take that one, Stephen. So
Sure.
the answer is yes. The way that SlashNext integrates into Microsoft 365, we're doing that at the mailbox level. So what will happen in this particular case is you're gonna, if the assessment is running, the SEG is gonna look at the email first. Once it lets it through, Microsoft is going to look at that email, and then when Microsoft's done, SlashNext is going to look at that email. It'll be interesting when you run the assessment. You'll see you've got 2 layers of protection before you even get to SlashNext, and you'll see all the things that SlashNext detects that the SEG won't. And to turn that around, just like on the use case example I gave before, most of our customers layer SlashNext in. whether they're a native Microsoft 365 shop with Defender, or they're still using the SIG, they realize what they have now is broken, and they can layer us in. We supplement what they have. We provide a layered or supplemental defense, and then as customers then want to get off the SEG, whether it's Proofpoint or Mimecast, and move more into a native Microsoft SEG environment in the cloud, we're there already providing that protection during that transition. So whether it's just for the assessment, or if you're going to ask the question about, production, we work in any of those situations.
Great. And the last question here, they're kind of insinuating, what is it that SlashNext is doing competitively or differently than what a Microsoft could have traditionally picked up? So what is the proprietary or secret sauce that you guys are doing beyond the traditional gateways in a nutshell? How do you share that?
That's a great question. Stephen, you want to take a crack at it first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the Microsoft and the traditional SEGs, it's not that they're necessarily bad tools. It's designed for a different threat type at a different time, right? They're really focused in on the known bad, and that strategy is no longer effective when you can create instant messages at huge scale that are malicious and engage users in a big way. And also some of these vendors have become very kind of broad in their scope. A lot of things that don't have to do with the core mission of preventing and solving the phishing problem. And so really focused on those other things, and they've kind of redirected their focus and their attention and their investment away from this problem, but the problem is constantly iterating. Whatever the numbers that Barry was showing earlier, next year, I would bet they're going to be bigger. The year after that, I would bet they're going to be bigger. So, I mean, this is not something where you can try and move away from and take your eye off. Otherwise, the efficacy is naturally going to fall over time, whether that's due to the technology, the style of attack, or the creativity of the attacks. Want to add anything to that, Barry, maybe?
It was so well said. I think I answered it perfectly.
All right. So there's one final slide here, Barry, if you could proceed to that one. Excellent. So I just want to conclude the webinar this afternoon. I want to appreciate everybody who has tuned in and given us 60 minutes of your time to learn more about SlashNext and how Stratagem can assist in getting you to the next level of that defense. If you have any questions at all, whether about SlashNext or about Stratagem's capabilities, please feel free to reach out to me. There's my email, nisreen.chams@stratagem.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will get you to the appropriate resource for the question you have. With that being said, I want to also thank Barry and Stephen for your time. You guys are very busy people. I know have a lot of priorities, but you spent the afternoon with us today, so thank you so much. And we hope to be in a future webinar with you guys in the near future.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, everybody. Take care.